Hello, amazing, beautiful visionaries of Entheon Nation. This is Lorna Liana. I'm your host for an exciting interview with two of my favorite artists in the world, Alex and Allyson Grey, who have had a long history of developing their own unique styles of visionary art, but also co-creating a shared vision together that involves community and creating an amazing temple to the visionary art world. So the mystic paintings of Alex Grey articulate realms of psychedelic visionary consciousness, revealing interwoven energies of body, soul, love, and spirit, and illuminate the anatomical core of each being. While Allyson Grey, MFA, is a painter, social sculptor, and is Alex's creative collaborator, life partner, and studio mate since art school in 1975, and her work encompasses order, chaos, and secret writing. And so over the many years of following both their work, I've been so deeply moved and impressed by the work of art that they're creating together. So I'm very excited to have them here with us today to share with us what the secrets are to creating a powerhouse visionary partnership that really has such an ambitious creative project in the works that is really going to be a deep benefit to all people. So thank you so much for joining us here today.
Oh, thanks for having us, Lorna.
So I would love to hear more about how you guys met. How long have you been together, and when you guys met each other, was it love at first sight?
Well, we met in an art school in a class called Conceptual Mixed Media, and we met on the level of art can be made of all mediums, mixed media, and it really is thought-based. It's thought-oriented. So whatever your concepts are more important than the materials that you're using. The materials come second. Anyway, we began. We met we met at art school, but we met in love when Alex had his first LSD trip in my apartment. I was giving the end-of-year party, and I always gave parties, but I gave the end-of-year party, and I invited Alex because he was the studio assistant of the guy I was going out with.
Oh, wait, so you're with somebody else.
I was going out with the professor, and Alex was working for him. So I would see him, like, working in his studio. You know, he was doing this guy's paintings. He was a conceptual artist, and Alex was doing his paintings because he was a great painter. He had been a billboard painter, and he was so impressive. Anyway, I had been in this school for years, and Alex seemed to like my work, too. He always says he did.
Amazing artist.
Yeah, I was, working on sculpture and installation and, and very inner work, very personal work. And Alex's work was so raw. But I didn't think of him as somebody I would go out with. I was going out with a professor. So, but then the professor brought Alex to my apartment for this end-of-year party, and he had a bottle of Kahlua and LSD, and he gave it to Alex. And Alex had never tripped before. I had been tripping quite a bit. But to that point, I had been tripping for 6 years and all kinds of experimenting. Alex had put that off, I think, wisely. What do you think?
It was perfect the way that it was, but I didn't really realize that. I mean, earlier that morning, I had kind of dared God to show me a sign that I shouldn't kill myself, basically. If God did exist, then show me a sign, because I'm ready to check out. I was 21, and I was desperately sad and probably worried about my, mental stability or something. And so I was so depressed a lot of my teenage years that I didn't want to take LSD because I thought that'll just make it worse, And so I had avoided it, but now I had already decided, what the hell? I was practically ready to kill myself. So somebody offers me LSD, why not? And so So I drank about half the bottle and got to her apartment, and she drank the rest of it.
That's
But
a lot.
Yeah.
Too much Kahlua, really.
Probably.
LSD has no flavor. You can't find it anywhere. But that was really what
There
did
probably,
it, right?
yeah, but there probably wasn't a full bottle at all. You know, it probably just had some. And the professor knew what he was doing. And I think that what it did for me, because I sat down on the couch and didn't talk to anybody the entire evening.
No, we didn't speak that.
I just totally went inside. I couldn't even speak to anyone. I was so overwhelmed. And it was such a weird trip because I've never had a trip like this ever since. It was just one vision the entire trip. Now, that doesn't even seem possible in retrospect. But for hours, I was having this vision of going through a tunnel. I was in the dark part of the tunnel, and just around the corner was this beautiful light. And the light was shining. I knew that was God. Question answered. Okay, a divine reality exists. All is not lost. Love is real. And it's right around that corner. I can just see it. I'm in the dark, but I'm going toward the light. So that kind of turn around, I could see that all the shades of gray held the opposites together. And so I decided I'm going to change my name to Grey because it unites the polarities.
Now, you didn't decide that you were falling in love with me at that moment, but you did call me.
I called her the very next day because for me, this was a completely revolutionary insight. That now I was instantly like a mystic, but I didn't really realize it or know it. But I had so much supercharged hope and love. I just thought, wow, that girl, she had the rest of that brew. I'm going to call her right now and see if anything happened to her.
Right,
she was nice to me and invited me to a party.
Well, I told you in a previous time that I had this experience when I was 20 of the secret writing washing over all surfaces. And it changed my life because I got what God was. I went from being a godless Politico in the early 70s, late 60s, to being sort of a seeker. And I went and meditated with Yogi Bhajan. This is all before I met Alex. So when Alex came to me and he had this incredible spiritual opening, I had never really told anybody about this because you didn't talk about spirituality in the early to mid 70s. I didn't tell my review board, that my thesis was based on an LSD trip. No, you couldn't talk about it. Now you can talk about it. Things have really rolled forward, even though we still, live with the secrecy of sacrament. Things are better because we can talk about it. But anyway, when Alex came to me and had that experience, it resonated. I was talking to somebody about the spiritual opening that psychedelics were. Nobody was talking about that. Anyway, but I had gone to start meditating, and Alex and we both just started on a spiritual path together. Yeah,
it was instantaneous. We fell in love with each other. Then it was like
we never left.
My God. We went on a date and never left.
We had two separate apartments, but we were both moving out of because it was the end of school. We moved in together.
Yeah.
So basically it went from LSD experience in your apartment, Alex is sitting the entire night on a sofa not talking to anybody, and then you guys moved in together right after that.
We had a date, we talked about it, and we just didn't it was either my apartment or your apartment until we moved into this loft. Now this is really relevant to relationships advice and things like that because we moved into this raw space with no bathroom, no kitchen, The floor had to be sanded. There were no walls. We were dividing a 6,000 square foot floor into 3 units, and we had to build it. So building brought us together. Because even though we decided we were going to live together, we had to make decisions together. We had to design it. We had to figure out what the finishes were going to be. And we had to work seriously, like saw things and
carry plasterboard together.
Carry plasterboard together. we cast all 21 the Sacred Mirrors frames together in 1985. So in any case, we learned to work together by building. And building has been in the center of our relationship always, because we were in that loft for 9 years, and then we got kicked out. And then we bought a loft in New York together with our money. We put it all together. We bought a loft in Brooklyn, and we built it. It was a raw, again, no bathroom, no kitchen. We had to build it. So that was 9 years later. Yeah. So building is very good. I have to say, it doesn't have to be building, but I do recommend a shared project with your partner. Not just like, you both like to go to the movies and you go to the movies every week. Make it something that you're creating. Create something together. That's why people have children, they have families, because they're creating something together. But then when the children all grow up and they don't need you anymore, then what are you creating together? Because you have to keep creating together. And that's, I think, what's been very central to our success, if you wonder why we've been together for 41 years. It's because we are always creating together. And I think it's also because we have a shared spiritual center. We have a shared spiritual life. If one person is an atheist, devout, like hardcore, and then another person is a religion, like a Christian or something, it's going to be tough because the principal center of those people is not aligned. They might, have an attraction to each other, and they might like to both go to the movies. But there's this principal center that is not aligned. So for us, even though I grew up Jewish, and Alex grew up Protestant, and both parents, fairly, somewhat spiritual, not like hugely, but spiritual lives, different. But together, you see, we have a spiritual life that's the same, because we both had our God contact and God opening on LSD. And we understand, and we've been doing LSD periodically, not often, but occasionally and periodically, in order to revisit God contact. The personal contact with the divine, one-on-one, me and God.
Well, Alex, when I look at your art, there seems to be a very strong Tibetan Buddhist influence. Would you consider yourself to be a practicing Tibetan Buddhist, and both of you, or is it beyond, what is your primary practice, so to speak?
Well, at this point, I did study Tibetan Buddhist Dzogchen approach for quite a number of years. And part of what I saw as an inherent message in the Dzogchen teachings were regarding the universal creativity as weaving the web we're in. And that the Vajrayana, if you look at the non-dual center of the Vajra, this circle is the non-dual core, that which is both manifest and that which transcends manifestation. The intelligent order of the cosmos that precedes the cosmos. That's the non-dual center that then expresses in both nirvana and samsara. Both are coming off of this non-dual energy, and it's really a matter of your perception, your view, is what ultimately determines whether you're living in samsara or nirvana. And so the meditation for the Dzogchen practitioner is never supposed to end. There's not an end to contemplation. Contemplation is every potential moment of now. And so awakeness and awareness, even though it seems like an impossible task, perhaps, for a lot of creative people, when they feel like they're open to the flow of creative expression, I believe that this universal creativity that's at the heart of the Dzogchen teachings and is speaking through each of the great masters is that ultimate energy that isn't defined or confined to a particular tradition. But as they said, the Dzogchen teachings are known in other galaxies, in other star systems. So this is cosmic energy creating through us. And I believe that the aspiration of awareness and mindfulness, all of these core dharmic teachings are relevant for all of us to develop our consciousness. So my feeling is that each religion has a gift to give to humanity and has been found useful by some of our brothers and sisters for the millennia. And so each is deserving of study. My particular attraction came to the Tibetan Buddhist tradition because I felt like here was a psychedelic art. And they were attempting to portray the Nirmanakaya, the material world, the Sambhogakaya, that visionary world, and then the Dharmakaya, that realm beyond depiction. So their aspiration was always multi-tiered. Multiple levels of reality should be indicated. And I always felt that's what a visionary work of art had to indicate, was that it needed to show dimensionality in order to, evoke multiple realms and show that they existed. So I felt like the modern visionary art movement is really in league with this same kind of sacred art expression that the Tibetan Buddhist sacred art has been expressed in. There it's more codified. Here the art perhaps is slightly more idiosyncratic, but there is now an existing and growing encyclopedia of these dimensions of reality. And I think that love is ultimately at the core of it. That the images of unity and aspiration and divine connection with a spiritual source are ultimately the self-God contact. That is the primary mystical experience, and that is an experience of infinite love. And when one is tapped into that and then can recognize that in the other there's an equal fountain of love, and that each of us are that. And when you bond with another and you have that common understanding, it's potential that, I think an angel told me that the inevitable consequence of love is the building of temples.
Wow, I love that.
You know why that is so true? Because two people that love each other so much, like Alex and I, are called to invite more people into love, And a community is a community of love if it is around a temple. So you have like a principal center. You know, our principles we stated before: tolerance and acceptance and diversity and love, especially love. So in any case, around a common core of radical welcoming, you could have a very loving community. So that's the inevitable consequence of love, because when you love each other, you want to make something together. You know, but then when you love a lot of people, you want to make something together too. And what do you make that you can all share? A temple is something where you can do all the most fun things, you know, dancing and singing and acting and art, music. So that's why the temple.
Thank you so much. So we're about at the end of this interview segment. I just wanted to conclude this beautiful conversation with your vision of this temple that you're creating together, how you intend to build it together with each other and with the community.
Well, we're in the midst of our Kickstarter campaign to raise money so that we can finish the interior of Entheon and open it. Now, we're not going to have this elaborate sculpture on our building probably for a few years until we raise the money to create it, but it is going to come eventually.
We do not know this. See, I keep trying to tell Alex. It could happen tomorrow.
It could.
It's just a matter of the you know, who is called to do this with us and how many and how fast.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just a matter of what we need to do is to wrap all of this sculpture around this building.
It's a 3-story building.
How do you do that? Like,
all right. Well,
technically,
it's doable.
Print out, and not only is it so doable. The people who do the 20-foot 3D printouts are across the river about 20 minutes from here. So, in Gardner. So we're going to, they've been doing it for other buildings like the Brooklyn Academy of Music and the New School and other New York institutions. They can print out 20-foot sculpture, as big as 20 feet. Ours will have maybe a dozen or 2 dozen molds, different molds. You print it out, and then you make a mold of that. You make a fiberglass mold, and you spray in glass reinforced cast concrete. It's kind of, and you get and then you just attach it to the building. So that is what will happen. But right now we're raising money to finish the interior so we can have the exhibition back on view that we had for 5 years in Manhattan. It was wonderfully successful. So now we're going to have it here in the country setting of brilliant tranquility, and you must come. It's in COSM.org. You can look it up, COSM.org. Stands for Chapel of Sacred Mirrors.
And the Kickstarter campaign is buildentheon.com.
Yeah.
That's an easy way to get to